Hi, my name is Teresa, and I'm here just to go over Module 5, Technology in Contemporary Times. Obviously, with COVID learning and COVID teaching, we have been using technology a lot. So I'll go through some of the different tech tools that I use in my room, also my most current technology tool, and these are the ones that I've used in the unit that I recently have taught and planned, and discuss kind of my rationale behind why I choose those technology tools and reflection on technology in the classroom in general. So I will begin first with my most recent tech tool, which is Bookit. And I chose this to use because honestly my students were asking for it. They'd used it in another class, so I'm going to take you to Bookit just so we can tour around a little bit. But it is similar to Kahoot or Gimkit. It is a game, kind of assessment game, so you can load questions, trivia, review. Basically, students are motivated. I will say that they're more motivated than Kahoot at the moment to play this than with Kahoot, because this is more gamified. And you can import question sets or use question sets other users have already created. You can customize freely. If you get the subscription version, I think it just gives you some extras, but honestly, the free version has been working just fine. And they use these little blocks or block characters, and the students get to choose kind of if they're going to be a cow or a sheep or a duck or whatever it might be. So just kind of a tour inside the tech tool. If you create an account, which is free, you can create a question set, or you can discover question sets. So like I did my unit on chemical bonding. So if I type that in, you'll see all these previous question sets other people have used. If you wanted to review one, for instance, it'll show the number of questions. You can look at the individual question and the answer options, and the most boldly colored one is the correct one. You can copy this, change the order, the time limits, delete questions, add questions, favorite it, assign it as a solo thing students would play on their own at home, or host it live in class. If you go to host, it will let you select a game mode, which is great for student choice. Mine have really enjoyed Cafe, where they kind of are answering questions to earn money or create dinner orders, whatever it might be. Battle Royale was kind of fun. And then they have just a classic version, which is similar to Kahoot. So that's just a little tour around Bookit. I chose it to be used because I have noticed that my students are really engaged in the more game-centered learning. This is probably due to the fact that I teach high school freshmen and we're teaching science. So if you can get them kind of really interested or involved in at least learning some of those concepts, that's a fantastic way. So I think this ties into cognitive learning the most, where learners can be influenced by internal or external elements. In this case, I think the external element of playing a game and competition with other students is something that really influences them. Cognitive learning is kind of learning about how you think, but I think at a basic level, that students realize, in their quick answer questions, maybe how they're thinking. You can make some of those questions actually go to a higher level where they have to recall previous information or kind of apply information in order to get an answer. So I've been doing Bookit and Kahoot actually as well with naming chemical bonds. So we're getting into some of those higher taxonomy or levels of thinking. As far as the technology standards go, I really think that a lot of the tech tools actually apply mostly to the empowered learner. So a student will use technology to seek feedback and inform or improve their practice of technology or their practice of the subject, and demonstrate learning in a variety of ways. So other tools that I use in my classroom are Kahoots, again, the game-centered. Google Classroom is obviously kind of the creme de la creme of this year. I've used WebQuest and Edpuzzle for more when I was teaching hybrid. My students are now fully face-to-face, so we still use those, but more of a in-class setting. Nearpod is something my district kind of paid for, but it is similar to Pear Deck. It has some built-in kind of digital lessons that allow you to actually really get feedback from every student before you move on, like if you pose a question or a poll, versus just kind of popcorn or generally asking the class. So that is really kind of a cool feature too. And then Kami is basically pairs really nicely with Google Classroom. If you have something that's already in a PDF format, they don't need Adobe. They can use Kami and edit the PDF to put their answers in, so it doesn't have to go through any kind of funky conversions that Google kind of has in place if it's not a Google Doc or a Google Slide. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as current technology. Potential changes I would make to the technology is maybe more strategic use. I think I have figured out in this first year that I really like to keep the games as more of the beginning of class, review of the material from the day before, and that just seems to really get students engaged and kind of set the tone for the class. Other things I would like to do is maybe more using Edpuzzle better for the flipped classroom aspect. So I assign them a video to watch of maybe something I recorded with Screencast-O-Matic, and they do that the night before they come into class, which is similar to something high school students will see in college. Or this idea of learning stations, which I have read about. I haven't had the chance to really implement. I think that is something that will take kind of years as far as developing all these stations for every single day or every single unit that you teach. But here, this would kind of flip it from the full block, because I'm on a block schedule, being based around the teacher kind of dictating or saying what needs to be done every 20 minutes, where the students would just know I need to complete the 4 stations for the day. Just in general reflection, looking at technology and how it's impacted student learning. A specific student that comes to mind is a student that does well but needs extra time. So technology allows for that student to either maybe replay notes or presentations independently so they can go through slides at their pace, or really all the technology is at their fingertips that I have posted in Google Classroom. So though that applies to the specific student, the whole class actually is able to utilize that feature as well. So the whole class has the resources always available to them, and really what that kind of has done is change the role of teacher to facilitator a little bit more, which was mentioned in the video for this module, the Khan Academy video. So I think what we will see is maybe not so much this year, but in the future years, this true shift from always on the teacher to more on the student, and the teacher is the guiding force, the facilitator of the learning. So I think that's what technology is allowing. There are so many ways and modes of learning now. It's not just, can you read a textbook or read an internet website and understand the material independently. There are games, there are programs, there are major projects. I also teach a project Lead the Way class that really focuses more on this, where you can give the students a problem, specifically in science, and they have to figure out a way to answer it, and you are just there to maybe guide them along the way. I do think that it really depends on the age group of the student too, as to how well they will manage this, particularly high school freshmen at the moment who missed out on a good chunk of their 8th grade year and had an odd start to the beginning of their freshman year. We're still dealing with some middle school level learning, which is okay. Hopefully we'll get them up to speed soon and get them where they need to be as far as moving forward in their high school career. But I'm hoping that, by sophomore year, they can focus, a little bit more on being student-centered and more independent learning rather than constantly guided, teacher-centered. So, generally though, technology has been super helpful, and there are times that it's not so helpful, but I think it's just trial and error as to what works in your classroom and works with your style of teaching and what the purpose is for you using that technology. If you're just using it to use it, it needs to be a little more impactful, as in it's the best form or the best tool for your subject or content area, or for the age group of your students, or it's really getting the point across of the material that you need to present that day. So lastly, I just have some references here, the IST website and Governor's University, where they talked a little more about learning theories. So hopefully you've enjoyed the presentation, and if you have any questions, again, Bookit was a great game tool to use, I think, for any age group. So you could go to bookit.com. Particularly high school freshmen are really enjoying it. So that is all I have for you. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.